All right, today we are diving into something really fascinating, a world completely different from our own. We're going to explore a story where the single biggest conflict of the 20th century just never happened. And we're going to see the incredible and sometimes pretty dark consequences of that so-called peace.
I mean, just think about that question for a second. It's huge, right? It completely rewrites the DNA of the modern world. What would our technology be like? Our society? Our politics? If you take that one massive event out of the equation, what's left? So let's jump in. Let's see what that world looks like.
I want you to picture it. The year is 1968, but you got to throw out everything you know about travel. Forget about jet planes. Instead, you look up and see these enormous, graceful airships, like the Aero Cruiser Sovereign, just silently gliding overhead. See, in this timeline, without the desperate need for speed that a world war creates, the jet engine is just a footnote, an expensive toy. Travel is slower, it's quieter, and the skies, they belong to these beautiful floating giants. So how did we get here? How did we end up in this strange, quiet, zeppelin-filled timeline? Well, it all comes down to a single moment. One person's life changing, well, everything. And here it is. This is the exact moment everything changed. In our history, the German Chancellor Gustav Stresemann, a political genius, died from a stroke in 1929. His death left a huge power vacuum that chaos rushed in to fill. But in this world, he makes it. He pulls through. And his steady hand is just enough to guide Germany through the disaster of the Great Depression. And just like that, the dominoes start to fall. With Stresemann in charge, Germany's economy finds its footing. The extremist parties on the far right and far left, they're starved of the public anger they need to grow. By 1932, a stable, moderate coalition is in power. That whole disorganized putsch in 1933 by some guy named Adolf Hitler, yeah, that gets squashed easily. And by 1941, he just dies of pneumonia in prison, a nobody, a historical footnote. No Third Reich, no World War II. Okay, so no World War II. Sounds great, right? A utopia? Not even close. And this is the real heart of the story. This so-called peace, it came with a hell of a price tag. It was a world of trade-offs, and some of them were absolutely terrifying. So let's actually look at the books, the pros and cons of this timeline. On one hand, you've got these incredible wins. No Holocaust, for one. Europe's amazing culture is saved from the bombs. But on the other, whoa. The losses are staggering. Technology is stuck in the past, brutal colonial wars never end, and social progress just stalls out. Let's dig into both sides of that coin. First, let's talk about the good stuff. And I mean, it is undeniably good. Imagine walking through Berlin or Warsaw today, and they're just pristine, never bombed. Their history is all there. The Holocaust, one of the absolute worst things humanity has ever done, it just never happened. Jewish communities all across Europe are flourishing. Warsaw is this incredible hub of Yiddish culture. And Albert Einstein? He never had to run. He's right there in Berlin, heading the physics department at Humboldt University. But that picture of peace? It's really only for some people. For millions of others, it was an absolute illusion. This line from a British diplomat in our story, man, it just cuts right through it, doesn't it? Because without that war to bankrupt them and break their will, the old European colonial empires, they never let go. They just squeezed tighter. Okay, so let's get into the losses, and believe me, they are huge. Technologically, the world is practically stuck. No war means no urgent need for things like jet engines or a space race. Computers are these slow, clunky things. Penicillin isn't even mass-produced for decades. Socially, oh, it's even worse. Awful ideas like eugenics are still considered legitimate science. In the US, Jim Crow is alive and well. The civil rights movement, the push for women's rights, they're basically a generation behind. And maybe worst of all, the world isn't at peace. It's just being torn apart by dozens of smaller, grinding colonial wars in India, Indochina, all across Africa. So what does this all add up to? What does the world map even look like in 1968? Well, it's not our Cold War. Not at all. It's this messy, unstable, three-way global standoff. You've got three main players on the board. First up, there's the League of Nations, kind of the old guard. Britain, France, a democratic Germany. But they're completely bogged down, just bleeding money and soldiers trying to hold on to their colonies. Then you have the Soviet Union. And let me tell you, they are terrifyingly strong in this timeline. Without the catastrophic losses of World War II, their conventional army is a behemoth, and they're funding rebellions everywhere. And finally, you have Imperial Japan. They're kind of boxed into Asia, but they've got this brutal iron grip on their empire, and are locked in a Cold War of their own with the West.
So you have this incredibly tense world, just a powder keg waiting for a spark. And that spark is about to be lit in Berlin at a big League of Nations summit in 1968. The leaders showing up think they're there to celebrate and protect this fragile peace. They have no clue what's about to hit them. None at all.
So get this. In this timeline, the atomic bomb isn't a thing. Not yet. Nuclear physics has just been this academic curiosity. But then, a few years earlier, in '65, a paper comes out from an American physicist, J. Robert Oppenheimer, that spells out the terrifying military power hiding inside uranium. So now, all these world leaders are getting together to debate this hypothetical threat they're calling the uranium question.
And you can just hear the hope and honestly the cluelessness in this quote from the German Chancellor Willy Brandt. He's up there pleading for a treaty, for everyone to agree not to build this weapon. He thinks they have time. They all think they can just talk their way out of this potential future.
They were wrong. So wrong. The whole summit was a joke from the very beginning. The time for talking, it had already run out, and they didn't even know it.
Because, you see, while the West was busy debating and writing papers, the Soviets were building. Intelligence starts to trickle in about something called the Khrushchev program, a top-secret project buried deep in Siberia with one goal and one goal only, to turn Oppenheimer's terrifying theory into a weapon.
And this is the gut punch. The moment the world is turned upside down. The intelligence report comes in, and it's brutally simple. The Soviets didn't just figure it out. They already tested one, 2 days before the summit even started. They have the bomb, and nobody else does.
And just like that, the world is broken. The entire global balance of power, gone, shattered overnight. Suddenly, the most ruthless, totalitarian regime on the planet holds the ultimate weapon. They hold the world hostage. A terrifying new arms race is about to begin, only this time, the West is starting a mile behind the starting line.
And this is where it gets really chilling, right? This is the great irony of this whole story. By dodging the bullet of World War II, this world also missed all the hard, painful lessons that came with it. There was no United Nations forged in the aftermath, no Geneva Conventions written in blood. The world's leaders never really had to look into the abyss of modern industrial warfare. And now, they were staring right into it, completely unprepared.
And that brings us to the final, haunting thought of this whole thing. For 50 years, they thought they'd outsmarted death, that they'd avoided the big one. But death was never gone. It was just patient. It was simply waiting for a better weapon.
Please like and subscribe.